Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day 43 of Quarantine Irish Tunes. My special guest, MAIREAD, is here, and we're going to play a reel called The Soldier's Joy. Last time. Thank you, MAIREAD. That was fun. Alrighty. Now I'm going to get a little bit reset up here. We don't have our regular photographer here, Sandy, because she's out on a bike ride and wasn't able to be our camera person. So, alrighty. Thanks, MAIREAD. Soldier's Joy is apparently originally from Scotland, but it's much more popular on this side of the Atlantic. It's been associated with the Civil War. Apparently, Soldier's Joy was actually a concoction that had beer, whiskey, and morphine. As you know from anybody that studied anything about the Civil War, the injuries and the state of surgery and medicine at that time was horrific, and there was a lot of people with amputations and gangrene and other horrible, painful things. So Soldier's Joy was what they took to try to deal with the pain. And so there's actually words to this song that talks about Soldier's Joy. It's also funny because a lot of times, at least in Ireland, this is called a hornpipe. And a lot of people are confused as to what's the difference between a hornpipe and a reel. They're often played as each other. So like a lot of times there's hornpipes that get played as reels, and occasionally the other way around. I mainly think of the difference as the fact that a reel is faster and less syncopated. So, you know, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So that's sort of like the reel, da-da-da, watermelon, 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 yeah. Whereas a hornpipe, so if I were to play, we just played that like a reel. If I were to play it like a hornpipe, it would be like... So it's much slower, kind of statelier, and syncopated. Dun, da, 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 da. So that's the difference between a hornpipe and a reel. That's our music lesson for the day from Ireland. All right, so next I'm going to do a song, and it is a song that I learned from the playing and singing of Nancy Griffith on her Other Voices, Other Rooms. And this was written by Ralph McTell. And Ralph will say, this is my second most famous song, because most people know him for one thing and one thing only, which is that he wrote the streets of London, which of course made him money and is a wonderful story. So apparently he was living in the north part of England, northwest part of England. I can't remember if it was Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, somewhere up there. And he was as a young man, and he had roommates that were from Ireland, and several brothers that had come over to work because there was no work in Ireland, and they needed to go to England to work, on hydroelectric projects or various other things that were happening. And they were very homesick, and so he wrote this song kind of from the first person, but he actually wasn't. He was English, and he was writing about his roommates. So the song is called From Clare to Here by Ralph McTell, and it's a great song. So here we go. There's a word in this song you should know, crack, usually spelled C-R-A-I-C, crack. It doesn't have anything to do with drugs. Crack is an Irish word. It just means a good time. So, if somebody says you were out at the pub last night, how was the crack? Was there good crack down there? So they're just talking about everybody having a good time, maybe having a sing-song, a few drinks, and maybe a little dancing, telling some jokes, all that kind of thing. So. For share this room, we're caught up in the crack, sleeping late on Sundays, we never got to Mass. It's a long way from Clare to here. It's a long way from Clare to here. It's a long, long way, it's further by the day. It's a long, long way from Clare to here. Friday comes around, we're only into fighting. Ma would like a letter home, but I'm too tired for writing. It's a long way from Clare to here. It's a long way from Clare to here. It's a long, long way, it's further by the day. It's a long, long way from Clare to here. Almost breaks my heart when I think of my Josephine. I told her I'd be coming home with my pockets full of green. It's a long way from Clare to here. It's a long way from Clare to here. It's a long, long way, it's further by the day. It's a long, long way from Clare to here. Time I feel alright is when I'm into drinking. Can sort of ease the pain of it, and it levels out my thinking. It's a long way from Clare to here. It's a long way from Clare to here. It's a long, long way, it's further by the day. It's a long, long way from Clare to here. I sometimes hear the fiddles play, or maybe it's just a notion. I dream I see white horses dance upon that other ocean. It's a long way from Clare to here. It's a long way from Clare to here. It's a long, long way, it's further by the day. It's a long, long way from Clare to here. All right, great song by Ralph McTell, who also wrote The Streets of London, From Clare to Here. I love that last verse about sometimes hearing the fiddles play and then the white horses, the waves on the ocean. When I first heard this song, I didn't know much about it, and I imagined that the other ocean they were talking about was, instead of the Atlantic, the Pacific. And so I thought, oh, they probably emigrated to San Francisco. There are a lot of Irish folks there. They were looking for work, and so they're thinking about, back home in the west coast of Ireland and Clare and the Atlantic Ocean. And in fact, they weren't. They were the other ocean. They were in England, so that would have either been the Irish Sea or the North Sea, and they were just thinking. And it's funny because they're not that far apart. You can take a ferry across, to from England over to Ireland, but in their minds and in their homesickness, they were definitely felt it was very far away. And it's just a wonderful image that each day the distance gets farther. So it's just wild. So great song. Love the version that Nancy Griffith does, and I think she actually sings it with Ralph McTell on the album, because most of them are duets. She does a great duet with John Prine doing The Speed of the Sound of Loneliness, and so wonderful album. And she made a second one, Voices 2 or something it was called. I can't remember. It's named after a Truman Capote novel or collection of short stories, I think. Other Voices, Other Rooms. So. All right, so next up I have a piece that doesn't fit into any of the categories that I usually do, like jigs, reels, slides, polkas, hornpipes. It's not any of those. It's what's called a set dance, or sometimes an air or a piece, and it's kind of a very different feel to it. A set dance is a type of dance in Ireland, but in this case, I think this was played just for listening. So it's called The King of the Fairies, and I learned it from the playing of Kevin Burke, and I really like it. It's got a great feel to it. So The King of the Fairies. All right, The King of the Fairies, set dance from Ireland, played by Kevin Burke. He actually plays it way slower and slidier and haunting and kind of than I do. So wonderful. All right, so next up is a song that comes from Australia, from the singing of Eric Bogle. Eric Bogle was born in Scotland but emigrated to Australia and wrote two very famous songs. One of them I've already done. It was the Green Fields of France, also called No Man's Land, very popular, and anti-war song. And this is another anti-war song called The Band Played Waltzing Matilda. And this goes out to my sister Nan Louise because she kind of requested it. And there's many great versions out there. You can listen to Eric Bogle singing it. You can listen to the Pogues singing it. You can listen to Priscilla Herdman sing it. So I'm going to give it a try. It is a very sad song. It often tears me up. I'm going to try to get through it. I might have to pause. I figured out that if I speak the lines instead of sing them, sometimes I can get through it that way. So here's a try on this great song. A little history that you need to know. This is a World War I song, and it's about Anzac Day. And Anzac stands for the Australia and New Zealand Army Corps, and they were a joint force that fought in World War I. And in the Battle of Gallipoli, which is what this song is about, 50,000 Australian soldiers lost their lives. So roughly equivalent to the entire loss of U.S. life in Vietnam. And of course, as we know, the COVID-19 virus has already killed far more than that. So Anzac Day is on April 25th. It gets mentioned in this story. Of course, that would be fall in Australia as opposed to spring. And it commemorates the day of the invasion and the massacre. Gallipoli is actually in Turkey, and it is, I believe, near the Dardanelles, and so it's a strategic area that the British were hoping, with the help of the Australians, would, be successfully taken. There's a lot of politics and history too. You can read all about it. But the best thing to do is, if you haven't seen it, is to watch the movie by Peter Weir, Gallipoli, one of Mel Gibson's first movie after Mad Max. He plays a soldier that goes to Gallipoli, and it's a great movie. I've loved it. I've watched it many times. I'm a big fan of Peter Weir. I got to go to Australia and to Canberra to the film archives, and I got to meet a director that knew him and all sorts of things like that. So a couple quick things about the movie Gallipoli. I actually liked it best because it's about running, actually, at least that's a theme that runs through it, is the two pals, Archie and Frank, meet because they are racing against each other in the 100-yard dash. And Archie's uncle, Jack, trains him, and he has this old stopwatch, and he makes him recite this little dialogue every time before he trains or races. And he says, Archie, what are your legs? And Archie says, springs, steel springs. And Jack says, how fast can you run? As fast as a leopard. How fast are you gonna run? As fast as a leopard. Well, then let's see you do it. And of course, in the race against Mel Gibson, he wins, and Mel Gibson is embarrassed and loses money. And then they end up in a little restaurant in a small town in Western Australia. And Mel Gibson is a city boy and thinks he's pretty cool. So he says to the waitress says, what do you want to eat? And Mel Gibson's character says, what do you mean, what do you want to eat? Do you mean, would we like to order? And the waitress says, we don't put on the dog around here. What do you want to eat? And embarrasses Mel, so it's great. So, Eric Bogle's The Band Played Waltzing Matilda. When I was a young man, I carried my pack and lived the free life of a rover. From the Murray's green basin to the dusty outback, while I waltzed my Matilda all over. Then in 1915, my country said, son, it's time you stopped rambling, there's work to be done. So they gave me a tin hat and they gave me a gun. and they marched me away to the war. And the band played Waltzing Matilda as the ship pulled away from the quay. And amidst all the cheers, the flag waving and tears, we sailed off to Gallipoli. How well I remember that terrible day, how our blood stained the sand and the water, and of how in that hell that they call Suvla Bay, we were butchered like lambs at the slaughter. Johnny Turkey was waiting, he'd primed himself well, he'd shower us with bullets and he rained us with shell, and in 5 minutes flat he'd blown us all to hell. Nearly blew us right back to Australia. But the band played Waltzing Matilda when we stopped to bury our slain. We buried ours and the Turks buried theirs. Then we started all over again. And those that were left, well, we tried to survive in that mad world of blood, death, and fire. And for 10 weary weeks I kept myself alive, though the corpses around me piled higher. Then a big Turkish shell knocked me arse overhead, and when I awoke in my hospital bed and saw what it had done, well, I wished I was dead. Never knew there were worse things than dying. I'll go no more waltzing Matilda all around the green bush far and free. For to hump tent and pegs, a man needs both legs. No more waltzing Matilda for me. So they gathered the crippled, the wounded, the maimed, and they shipped us back home to Australia. The legless, the armless, the blind, the insane, those proud wounded heroes of Suvla. And as our ship pulled into Circular Quay, I looked at the place where my legs used to be. And thank Christ there was nobody waiting for me to grieve and to mourn and to pity. And the band played Waltzing Matilda as they carried us down the gangway. But nobody cheered, they just stood there and stared. And then they turned all their faces away. And so now every April I sit on my porch and watch the parade pass before me. And I see my old comrades, how proudly they march, reviving their old dreams of glory. And the old men march slowly, old bones stiff and sore. They're tired old heroes from a forgotten war. And the young people ask, what are they marching for? And I ask myself the very same question. But the band plays Waltzing Matilda, and the men still answer the call. But as year follows year, more old men disappear. Someday no one will march there at all. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, who'll come a waltzing Matilda with me? And their ghosts may be heard as they march by that billabong. Who'll come a waltzing Matilda with me? Oh, good. I think I got all the tears out rehearsing it. So there you go. A wonderful story, wonderful song. I believe I read recently that it wasn't until something like 20, what could it have been, like 2012, 2010, when the very last vet from that war died. I mean, it's probably somebody that was, I think he was 113 when he died, and he's probably 16 in during Gallipoli in 1915. So crazy. All right. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. It's sunny again. Sandy's out on a bike ride. I think MAIREAD's going to go out on a bike ride. The dog needs a walk. Just hope everybody's really doing well and having a great time. It is in quarantine, on your best. It is day 43. It's Pete Seeger's birthday, so I'm going to send that out, not in honor of my sister, Nan Louise, but also for Pete. He would have been 101 years old today, Pete Seeger. So I think this is a song he would have loved, a great anti-war song about Gallipoli and the Australians and New Zealanders. All right, so before I do my last song, I'm going to finish up with a jig. I want to give a shout out because today I'm wearing a shirt that honors my good friend Renee Rader. Unfortunately, I couldn't figure out my phone today to switch it to not mirror image, so I don't think you can read it very well, but it says Hats of Fancy, which is her hat business. She makes beautiful hats. We own lots of them. And let's see. I also took down from the wall this beautiful felt doll. And there you can see it is a fiddle player with his nudie suit on and ready to go down to the Grand Ole Opry and play some tunes. So that felt doll was made by Olive, Renee's daughter, and a good friend of our family. And I just love it, and I really appreciate having it here. Also, right behind me is Icarus. So that one is, let's see if I can get that one. You see that a little bit. Icarus, the flying up to the sun, also made by Olive, and Sandy told me today. Well, that's Sandy. She's flying like as a Cecropian, as an aerial dancer. So, all right. So a shout out to Renee and Olive and Kevin, who's a furniture maker and artist, and Dexter too. Dexter makes the Lego giraffes that we use for Kids Forward when we give out awards every year. Sticking out your neck for kids, so we call them the Giraffe Awards for Kids Forward. All right, got time for one more. It's going to be a jig, and it's called the Battering Ram. Don't know why, but it's a popular jig in Ireland. It's got 3 parts, and it's going to be the last one of the day. So. there you go. Finish the day with a lively jig called the Battering Ram. All right, I hope everybody's well, and take care. I love you all, and it's great to be doing this every day and seeing your comments and that folks are listening. And I'm going to keep doing this hopefully through Mother's Day. That will be day 50. Tomorrow will be day 44. Monday. All right, so take care, everybody. I'll see you soon.